There's a number I want you to see. Two retirees walk into the same year. One has saved, well, let's call it a solid middle-class retirement. The other has $25 million. You'd assume the difference between them is that the rich one buys nicer things, a bigger house, a better car, first-class flights. And sure, that's true. But that's the postcard version. The real difference, the one nobody puts on a postcard, is that these two people are not living under the same financial system. They are driving on two completely different roads. And on one of those roads, the toll booths get more expensive the further you drive. On the other road, the one you need $25 million to access the tolls actually get cheaper. I'm going to call this the invisible toll road. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. By the end of this video, you'll be able to run the numbers yourself and decide what, if anything, you can actually do about it. I know that sounds dramatic, so let me earn it. First, let me be honest about what this video is not. This is not a rant about rich people being evil. It's not a conspiracy video. I'm not here to tell you the system is rigged by shadowy figures in a room somewhere. The tax code is public. You can read it. The strategies I'm going to walk you through are legal. They've been legal for decades. Some of them are even elegant, in a cold, mathematical sort of way. And I want to say something else plainly. If you've saved $2 million for retirement or even $500,000, you've done something genuinely difficult. Most Americans haven't saved anything close to that. This video is not about shaming anyone's retirement. It's about showing you that the financial system doesn't treat a dollar the same depending on how many other dollars are sitting next to it. And that difference, that gap, is not about luxury. It's about structure. It's about which road you're on. So let me build this from the ground up. Imagine a highway. Everyone uses it. It has toll booths. And the rule on this highway seems simple enough. The more you drive, the more tolls you pay. That's the road most retirees are on. You saved money in a 401k or a traditional IRA your whole career. You got a tax deduction when you put it in, which felt great at the time. But now you're retired, and every single dollar you pull out is taxed as ordinary income, not capital gains, not some special retirement rate, ordinary income, just like a paycheck. You deferred the tax. You didn't avoid it. The toll booth was always there. It was just parked down the road waiting for you. Now imagine a second highway running parallel to the first one. Same destination. But on this highway, something strange happens. The toll booths are spaced further apart. Some of them are unmanned. A few of them actually hand you money as you drive through. And the entrance ramp to this highway doesn't have a sign that says rich people only. It has a sign that says minimum portfolio, $25 million. That's the invisible toll road. Same country, same tax code, same year. Completely different math. Let me show you the numbers. Meet retiree number one. We'll call her Linda. Linda is 67. She did everything right. She maxed out her 401k for years, invested in target date funds, kept her head down, didn't panic during the downturns. She's got about 1.2 million saved, which puts her ahead of most Americans by a wide margin. She needs $80,000 a year to live, not lavishly, but comfortably. Mortgage is paid off, she's in a modest house, she just wants to cover groceries, utilities, insurance, property taxes, maybe a trip to see the grandkids twice a year. So she pulls $80,000 from her traditional 401k. Now here's her toll booth. That $80,000 is taxed as ordinary income. In 2026, after her standard deduction of roughly $15,700, her taxable income is about $64,300. She pays 10% on the first $12,000 or so, then 12% on the next chunk up to about $50,000, then 22% on everything above that. When you add it all up, she owes the IRS roughly $9,000. Her effective federal tax rate is about 11%. Now, that might not sound catastrophic, but sit with it for a second. Linda isn't earning this money. She already earned it. She earned it over 30 years of work. She already paid into Social Security. She already paid Medicare taxes on every paycheck. She saved what was left, and now in retirement, she's paying income tax again just to access her own savings. That's the regular road. That's the toll booth everyone drives through. Now meet retiree number two. We'll call him James. James is also 67. He built and sold a software company in his 50s and has a portfolio worth $25 million, almost entirely in appreciated stock and index funds. His cost basis, the amount he originally paid for those shares, is around $5 million. So there's about $20 million in unrealized capital gains sitting in that portfolio. James needs $500,000 a year to live. He has houses in 2 states, a property manager, a housekeeper, club memberships, and yes, the nice car. His life costs more. No one's disputing that. But here's the question. How does he get that $500,000? If James did what Linda does, just sold stocks and took the cash, he'd trigger a capital gains tax. At the federal level, long-term capital gains on that amount are taxed at 20%. So on $500,000 in gains, he'd owe roughly $100,000 to the IRS, and depending on his state, he might owe more on top of that. $100,000, that's the toll booth on the regular road for someone at his level. But James doesn't take the regular road. James calls his wealth manager and takes out a securities-backed line of credit, an SBLOC. Here's how it works. His brokerage lets him borrow against his portfolio the way you might borrow against your house with a home equity line. He pledges a portion of his $25 million in stocks as collateral, and the bank gives him a line of credit. He draws $500,000, and here's the number that changes everything. Because it's a loan, it is not income. It's not a capital gain. It's not a distribution. It's debt. And debt is not taxable. Read that again slowly. James receives $500,000 in cash and owes exactly zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not a reduced rate, not a special bracket, zero. Now, the loan isn't free. He pays interest. With SOFR sitting around 3.6% right now, and a spread of roughly 2% for a portfolio that size, his rate is in the neighborhood of 5.5%. On $500,000, that's about $27,500 in annual interest. So James pays $27,500 to access $500,000. Linda pays $9,000 to access $80,000. Run those as percentages. James pays about 5.5% to get his cash. Linda pays over 11%. James gets 6 times the money and pays a lower rate to get it. That's not a rich person perk. That's a completely different road. That is the invisible toll road. And I want to be fair here, because this is a math channel, not a rage channel. There is a real cost to what James is doing. The loan accrues interest. If his portfolio drops, say, a major correction hits, and his collateral falls below the lender's threshold, he faces a margin call. He might have to post more collateral or even sell stock at the worst possible time. That's a real risk, and it's the kind of risk that doesn't show up in the glossy brochure. I also want to be clear that this strategy doesn't work if your portfolio isn't large enough. Most lenders want at least a few $100,000 to even open an SBLOC, and the favorable rates, the ones below 6%, really only kick in at the multi-million-dollar level. So if you're watching this with a $400,000 retirement account, I'll be straight with you, this particular toll road isn't open to you. Not today. But understanding that it exists is still worth your time, because it explains why the system works the way it does. Now let's go further down both roads and look at healthcare, because this is where the gap stops being abstract and starts being physical. Linda is on Medicare. She paid into it for decades, and now she relies on it. And for what it is, Medicare is a genuine lifeline. I'm not here to trash it. It covers hospitalizations, it covers a chunk of doctor visits, it covers some prescriptions. For millions of Americans, it is the only thing standing between retirement and medical bankruptcy. That said, let's talk about what Linda's actual experience looks like. Linda wants to see her primary care doctor about a persistent cough. She calls the office. The next available appointment is in 3 weeks. That's not unusual. The average wait time for a new patient to see a primary care physician in the United States is over 20 days in many markets, and it's worse in some specialties. So she waits. She gets her 15-minute appointment. The doctor orders some tests. The results take another week. A referral to a specialist takes another 2 to 4 weeks. By the time Linda has a diagnosis and a treatment plan, 2 months have passed. She's not being neglected. She's just on the regular road where the system is overwhelmed, understaffed, and optimized for volume. James, on the other hand, pays for a concierge medicine membership. The median fee in 2026 is around $3,200 a year for a standard tier. James, being James, goes premium. Let's say he pays $8,000 a year. For that, he gets same-day or next-day appointments, a doctor who caps their patient list at a few hundred people instead of 2,000, direct cell phone access to his physician, and visits that last 45 minutes instead of 15. If James has that same persistent cough, he texts his doctor on a Monday morning and sees him that afternoon. Tests are ordered immediately. Results come back in days, not weeks. If a specialist is needed, the concierge practice has a network and gets him in within a week. Now run the number on it. $8,000 a year for James against a $25 million portfolio is 0.03% of his net worth. It's a rounding error. It doesn't even show up on his financial plan. For Linda, even the basic tier at $3,200 a year would be 4% of her annual income. That's real money. That's a month of groceries. That's the property tax bill. Linda can't afford to buy faster, better healthcare, not because she's irresponsible, but because the math doesn't work at her income level. James can't afford not to, because at his level, the cost is essentially invisible. So here's where we stand. Linda pays taxes to access her own savings and waits weeks to see a doctor. James pays no taxes on his cash, gets a lower effective borrowing cost, and has a physician on speed dial. Same country, same age, same year, two completely different roads. But the invisible toll road doesn't end there. It has one more feature, and honestly, this is the one that made me stop and stare at the math the first time I saw it. It's what happens at the end of the road. There's a wealth management strategy that's been written about in law journals and financial planning textbooks for decades. Professor Edward McCaffery at USC coined the phrase for it back in the 1990s. It's called buy, borrow, die. And I need you to understand this is not some internet conspiracy theory. This is taught in estate planning courses. It is practiced by major wealth management firms. It is entirely legal. Here's how it works, step by step. Step 1, you buy. You accumulate appreciating assets, stocks, real estate, business interests. You hold them. You don't sell. As long as you don't sell, you never trigger a capital gains tax. The gains are unrealized. They're on paper. The IRS can see them, but it can't touch them. Step 2, you borrow. Instead of selling to fund your lifestyle, you take out loans against those assets, just like James does with his SBLOC. The loan gives you cash. The cash isn't income. You live on borrowed money, and your portfolio keeps growing underneath the debt. You make interest payments, but you never trigger a taxable event. Year after year, the assets appreciate, the loans cover your expenses, and the IRS gets nothing because nothing has been sold. Step 3, and this is the part that makes people's jaws drop, you die. When you die, your heirs inherit those assets. And under current tax law, when they inherit, something remarkable happens. The cost basis of every asset resets to the fair market value on the date of your death. That's called a step up in basis. Let me make that concrete. Say James bought stock for $5 million. Over his lifetime, it grew to $25 million. That's $20 million in unrealized gains. If James had sold it all the day before he died, he would have owed roughly $4 million in capital gains taxes at the federal level alone. But he didn't sell. He borrowed against it instead. He dies. His children inherit the portfolio. And their new cost basis is not $5 million. It's $25 million, the market value at the time of death. If they turn around and sell every share the next day for $25 million, how much capital gains tax do they owe? Zero. The $20 million in gains that built up over James's entire lifetime is gone. Not deferred, not reduced, erased. Now, in fairness, the estate may owe estate taxes if it exceeds the federal exemption. But as of 2026, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act set that exemption at $15 million per person, $30 million for a married couple. So if James is married, the first $30 million passes free of estate tax. And for those above that line, there are trusts, strategic gifting, and other tools that wealth advisors use to bring the taxable estate down further. The point is, the system is built so that if you have enough, you can live on debt, never pay income tax on your spending, and then pass the assets to your heirs with decades of accumulated gains wiped clean. Meanwhile, back on the regular road, Linda will pay income tax on every dollar she withdraws from her 401k until the day she dies. There is no step up in basis for a traditional retirement account. When Linda's children inherit what's left, they'll owe income tax on every distribution they take, too. The toll booths don't stop when she dies. They just get passed to the next driver. Sit with that for a second. Now let me tell you what this video is not going to do. It's not going to tell you this is all unfair and leave you angry. Anger is easy. Anger doesn't compound. What I want to do instead is make sure you see the road clearly so you can make decisions with open eyes. Here's what history shows us. The step-up in basis has existed in the U.S. tax code since 1921. It's been challenged, debated, and nearly reformed multiple times. President Biden proposed eliminating it. It survived. The buy, borrow, die strategy has been publicly documented for over 30 years. Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle, has reportedly pledged more than $30 billion in stock as collateral for personal loans instead of selling shares and paying capital gains. Elon Musk has done the same with Tesla stock. These aren't secrets. They're just strategies that require a portfolio large enough to make the math work, which means most people never encounter them. And I want to be honest about the limits of what you can do with this information, because I think that matters more than pretending everyone watching this can go replicate James's strategy tomorrow. If you're closer to Linda's situation, here's what's actually actionable. First, understand that the type of account you save in matters as much as how much you save. A Roth IRA or Roth 401 KEC, where you pay tax on the money going in, not coming out, means your withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. You've already paid the toll. There's no booth waiting for you later. If you're early enough in your career, prioritizing Roth contributions is one of the single most powerful moves you can make, because you're essentially building your own version of a tax-free retirement lane. Second, If you're already retired and pulling from a traditional account, talk to a tax advisor about Roth conversions, converting chunks of your traditional IRA to a Roth in lower income years so that future withdrawals come out tax-free. There are trade-offs. You'll pay tax on the conversion, but the math can be very favorable if you plan the timing right. Third, pay attention to how your assets pass to your heirs. The step-up in basis does apply to assets held in taxable brokerage accounts. So if you have money outside of your retirement accounts in a regular brokerage account invested in index funds, say those shares will get a step-up when your heirs inherit them. This is one reason financial planners sometimes recommend spending down your tax-deferred accounts first and letting your taxable investments grow, because the taxable account is the one that gets the basis reset. But I'm not going to pretend that these moves close the gap. They don't. The invisible toll road exists because the tax code treats borrowed money differently from earned money and treats inherited assets differently from assets you sell. Those two features create a compounding advantage that accelerates the more wealth you have. It's not a bug. It's the architecture of the road itself. And nobody, not me, not your financial advisor, not the next politician promising reform, can tell you for certain whether these rules will change. The step-up in basis has survived every administration for over 100 years. It could be reformed tomorrow. It could last another century. I don't predict the future. I just show you the math that's true today. So here's where I want to land. There are two easy positions to take when you see numbers like these. One is blind outrage. Burn the whole thing down. The other is blind acceptance. That's just how it works. Nothing I can do. Both of those are lazy. The third position, the harder one, the one I think is actually worth your time, is clarity. Understand which road you're on. Understand which toll booths you're going to hit and which ones you can legally avoid. Run the numbers on your own situation, not someone else's, yours. Make decisions based on arithmetic, not headlines. The invisible toll road is real. The tolls get cheaper the bigger your car is. You can't change the road, but you can learn exactly where the toll booths are, and you can stop paying more than you have to. If this is the kind of thinking you want more of, not hype, not outrage, just the math laid out so you can decide for yourself, subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel. We do the arithmetic so you don't have to take anyone's word for it. I'll see you in the next